and welcome to yet another episode of Outlook Rendezvous. This is the show where we interview eminent personalities and achievers from all walks of life. I am Aishwarya Singh, and I'd like to begin by saying that the world, in fact the future of the world, is in the hands of our children. Their health and well-being will in turn ensure the health and well-being of our world. On that very positive note, I am delighted to be in the presence of somebody who is a pioneer in the field of pediatric hepatology, which concerns liver issues, as also liver transplantation. She was awarded with the B.C. Roy National Award in 2016 by the Honorable President of India, and this is the highest honor in medicine in India. Ladies and gentlemen, I am sitting here with Dr. Neelam Mohan, who dons many hats. She's an astute clinician, academician, teacher, publisher, leader, administrator and social worker, to just name a few. Dr. Mohan, what a privilege it is to have you in our midst. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Aishwarya, for those kind words, and it's indeed my pleasure to be here today with you for this Outlook Rendezvous.
Thank you very much, ma'am. Let me begin by asking you this question about you donning many hats, like I mentioned. I hear that teaching is closest to your heart, and you have been awarded by the Distinguished Teachers Award by the National Board of Examinations. Why don't you delve some light on teaching as something that you really love?
Initially, when we become doctors, all of us really want to do a lot clinically and be one of the wisest clinician and perform. And I think God was kind because I was a pioneer in liver disease and gastroenterological work in children in India, and that's why I was conferred with the B.C. Roy Award. But it's always, as I felt, that the balance that needs to be there, and you should be able to share and teach what you want to your colleagues, your youngsters, because that is very important, that the knowledge doesn't go in you. In fact, knowledge is something which I always say that it's like a vast ocean. Everybody has different drops of it, everybody has different parts, and we need to share with each other to enhance it. And this was really a good achievement, according to me, to get this award because I love teaching. And I guess maybe that's the reason that when I deal with parents, it's not only that I end up with just talking about the disease which they come up with. I take it as an opportunity to try to teach them a little beyond, whether it's about nutrition, it's about parenting, it's about, empowering them some social skills. So that's what I do it. So sometimes I'm taken off in a negative manner, that she loves to be very holistic in everything.
I'd like to now request you to throw some more light on parenting and its impact on the health of children.
Brilliant question, Aishwarya. Very few people use the word parenting with me. Well, I would like to, empower my parents and let them know that there are actually 4 basic styles of parenting. One is a permissive parenting. Permissive parenting means whatever you do is fine. There is nothing, there is no. That's called a permissive parenting. Everything. So what happens on the impact of the child? Children of permissive parenting cannot hear no. So they have very high self-esteem, but sadly they cannot get along with friends, peers. So they cannot make good friends. And sometimes they can have a negative impact. If they don't get friends, they might even lose their esteem. And the school performance may not be that good because of this. The second is the neglectful parenting. Neglectful parenting is, typical cartoon, let me show, when you see sometimes is father sitting on one corner with a laptop or a mobile, mother sitting on one corner with same thing, a phone, busy, and the child sitting in the center and looking at both the parents. So that is a typical cartoon. What I want to say is neglectful parenting, where the parents do not realize that they need to give time, they need to, so that's called neglectful parenting. What is the impact on the child? The impact is these children, very low self-esteem, disrespectful, they cannot be relied upon, their performance is poor, they do not know what is right and wrong, their social skills are pretty bad. Then comes the authoritarian parenting, like a dictator. You will not do this, that's it. No questions. And so this dictator type, you have to study 10 hours. You are not giving. So when you do this dictator type, that can have sometimes a revolting attitude. You might get the children in the right direction sometimes, but sometimes when they get adolescence especially, they just want to revolt. They just want to, show it back to the world. And the second thing is they come quickly under peer pressure. Very easily peers can, or some people can have an impact. They try to be nice and lovable, and you can get into bad habits, whatever, smoking, drugs, drinking, because they are looking for attention, love, etc. outside. So in authoritative parenting, you talk out, you put an arm around your child, and then you discuss, you tell why the rules are. So these are the ones which I was saying that, okay, eating time together with the family, no, mobiles are not allowed. I saw that show recently called The Family Man in one of the TV serial, and I really liked it, the way they were trying to put rules in the family. So that is what you need to supervise, you need to be strict, you need to be yet explaining them why you're giving those rules. And remember, when they are adolescents, parents think they're child and adolescents think they're adults, because it's a gray area where you're neither a child or an adult. It's a special area. At that time, parents also need to respect that they have their own opinion, they have their thoughts, and they are like nearly adults. So that is the phase which is very delicate, and we need to balance. Having said that, Ash, I just want to say that we all want to be perfect in parenting, but at the same time, as professionals, that is the time in your career you end up with, and how you need to keep a balance. Maybe we can discuss about the family strategies subsequently.
Very, very aptly explained, Dr. Mohan. We need to strike a balance. In fact, parents need to strike a balance when they're bringing up their children, and how beautifully you explained that to all of us and to the viewers. I'd like to now go on to the question of, caregivers, nurturers. Should they be reading food labels before picking up edibles for their children? How early can parents sensitize their children when it comes to healthy eating habits? My question is around nutrition.
Brilliant, so brilliant.
I'm so happy, because when I started initially, I said that there are some things which parents can have a real impact on, and that's the healthy eating habit and nutrition. Let me start right from infancy and go as we move in the age. So what happens is there's a right time for introduction of food to a baby. So parents who introduce very late are also wrong. Usually 6 months is the time when we say that besides your breastfeed or the other milk, you need to introduce complementary feeding, which is solids in the child's life. And there is a way that when you introduce one thing, you need to reintroduce the same thing for the week, so that you ensure that the child gets the taste for it before you say nahi isko to ye nahi pasand hai. So that is very important. I get parents who don't start introducing food till almost 1.5 years. That's wrong, because the child, if you would have worked very hard with your child till 1.5 years, 2 years, from 6 months, in ensuring that they develop taste towards vegetables, fruits, and that, then you will not have problem later on. There are parents who talk about the fussy eaters, etc., which is beyond the scope of the talk, but it is wrong introduction timings, and the taste and the texture, all that matters, I would say. And very good question subsequently, the labels, what you asked me, is something which nobody talks about in India. is that it is very important that we fortunately are developing or are reaching to like developed countries, but they have their own disadvantages. Our children are more, inside with TVs and computers and laptops, etc. Their playtime is reduced, and to add on to it, this COVID scenario has made things worse. So they don't really end up, with good physical activities. And then health is all about input and output. How much you eat and how much you work out and take out. So if you keep eating and then you have cars and buses to drop them to school, no playtime, no walking, no activities, then obviously the eating will get more. So this reading on labels, I think, this fast foods, sorry to say, this cool drinks, chips, burgers, biscuits, all these things, parents don't realize that how much of unnecessary calories you end up giving your child. Indian diet is a blessed diet. The whole world is jealous of us because Indian diet is a beautifully balanced diet. You take carbohydrates, roti chawal bread. Then you take proteins in the form of dal, besan, paneer, non-veg, chicken, mutton, egg. You take that. Then you always take some curd. That curd is again giving you the calcium milk products and all that stuff. We ensure we take fruits in our diet. So a balanced diet, when the parents come to me, I always say, is they forget to calculate the unnecessary calories. Actually, when you have to choose between fat and the sugar, we forget sugar is really bad. Sugar is an addiction. Sweets are an addiction. So that's why we are now saying that try to keep the sweets away from younger children for the first 2 years of life. The reason is because it's an addiction. And when we talk about obesity, liver disease, diabetes, fatty liver, it's all the sugar which is very harmful to you. And where all this, what she was talking about, Ash, the products which you take, all this ready-made chips, processed foods and all that, and then the sugars and the juices, Tetra Pak and all, they may not be that good because they are giving you a lot of unnecessary calories which you need to. So the balanced, what a parent needs to look at is, my child eats carbohydrate, yes, but जब वो छोड़ता है प्लेट पे कुछ, you parents say रोटी खत्म कर ले, चावल खत्म कर ले, but they should rather look that the child finishes vegetables and dal, because you should be more interested that the child eats vegetables and the proteins. They come to me and they say sabji nahi khata hai, so which means the child doesn't eat vegetable. I say, who's the parent, the child or the nahi, the child is not eating. So the answer to that is, it's not he or she, it's we.
Spoken like a perfect mother, because you're a mother, you know what's best for your children. And I think I would like to say that this was also an answer about balance. Nutrition has to be balanced with nutrient-rich foods, natural foods, and also an active lifestyle. So exercise.
I would just say that sometimes I think fortification of food is not a bad idea. Okay. Sometimes you get ready-made things which are fortified, which is justified. Or at home, I tell parents, to make mixtures like दाल को ड्राई करके पाउडर कर दिया, या नट्स को करके पाउडर रख दिया, ओट्स एंड रागी का पाउडर बना दिया. So these are at that time when you don't have time, you need to take a spoon, make a smoothie for a child. You take more, you ensure that the nuts are there and this is there, and that's how you need to come out with innovative ideas.
Agreed. Thank you, Dr. Mohan, for such amazing ideas for our moms also. Now I'd like to ask you about family. How important a role does family play when it comes to the well-being of children? And I would also like you to throw some light on nuclear family vis-a-vis joint family. How does that affect the emotional and physical health of a child?
How do you define family? So family is a group of people who actually teach you the love, the care, the bonding, the emotions that needs to be there. And I think we Indians, we're blessed with a joint family. Whatever I've achieved today would not have been possible if I was a struggling mother who had to take care of my two boys and yet perform in my career. If it wasn't for a joint family, living with parents and uncle aunties is definitely a blessing, provided there is harmony. Because I said health is all about physical and mental harmony too. But there are advantages and disadvantages of both. And I'll just quickly like to give you some ideas that in joint family, what are the advantages? One is you get a lot of support. Support could be dividing your work, physical support, financial support, you share the things and you give time. Then the emotional. Now, learning to share is also something which you learn when you are in a joint family. And emotional is bonding with, whether it is uncle, auntie, cousins, parents, grandparents, that emotional bonding. The wisdom that comes from the grandparents, no book can teach you that knowledge, which their experience and their wisdom and the cultural values living with grandparents teach. They do all those cultural thing, the pujas and whatever the at home that they look into, and they talk to you about your things to do with God and how important it is for us to care for the society. All that comes in them. So the social skills of the family and the child improves. So when it comes to a nuclear family, we have to work, we have to be out, we are out of station. So it's not always possible for us to be together. So when you're in a nuclear family, what should you do? I think there is an equal role of parent, both mother and the father. Parent is not just mother. People think parenting is just the job of mother. And youngsters should all realize it's there together, the mother and the... So if a mother is also professional and if we want to take a country ahead, we have to march together. Imagine a bird who's just flying with one wing. Can it fly?
How beautiful, Dr. Mohan. Family is the first society that a child encounters. And I think in a joint family, like you said, a child is brought up with better social skills and a strong emotional health foundation. Emotional sharing as well. And in a nuclear family, like you pointed out, I think they need to share the load. Both parents need to share the load to come up trumps. Thank you so much for that. Dr. Mohan, the role of a doctor is not confined or restricted to their profession.
So true.
Doctors are counselors, they are motivators, they are advisors, and they are the ones that bring hope to the world. During really grim times of COVID, I've heard you did so much and a lot of endeavors in the field of health. Your endeavors, Swasth Gaon Tak, Doctor on Wheels, I would request you to talk about that. You also were awarded by the Zee Swasth Bharat Samman, and recently 2020 Forbes list calls you one of the most powerful women in India. So I'm going to request you to throw some light on your efforts during grim times of COVID.
Thank you so much, Ash. When COVID time hit, it was like, I remember Modi ji coming in and announcing the lockdown, and we were all taken. We didn't know what next to do and how to go about it. And when even the people who were so educated, all of us were confused about COVID, how to handle. I'm just talking about the initial time when we heard about it. So that time I quickly jumped up and I thought it's time to take people together. So I got around 24-30 people, all of my youngsters along with me, and we formed a team and we called it 24/7 helpline. We created telephone and we put it all across the social media and to ensure that this... So all the doubts that people had, if I have symptom, what to do, what medicine to take, which hospital to go, because at that time there was total confusion. We didn't know what to do. So I came up with that. And then I think one of the most important thing that you can do to someone in health is knowledge. Getting out of ignorance and empowering knowledge is itself the most important step of being healthy. Unless I passed that knowledge at that time, all about washing and social distancing, all this we had to talk. So I went overboard, and I think I'm not mistaken if I say I would have had definitely more than 70, 80 electronic interviews all over the national TV, social media, YouTube, magazines. I was trying to talk and empower people about knowledge, how to prevent from COVID and how to identify the symptoms. And the second wave hit us. Places like Delhi NCR, Mumbai, where we thought health is at zenith, pinnacle, we could see everything being crushed. And that time I thought, how am I going to help people in the rural areas? What can I do for them? And I think all big things, what you achieve, comes from thoughts and ideas. I was blessed. I got this idea, which we translated, which was called Doctor on Wheels. Now, this, what did I think? I thought, okay, let me have a bus. And in that bus, we kept a telehealth facility. There was a doctor, there was a healthcare worker, besides the driver. And that telehealth had an equipment. You know, we kept a BP apparatus, we kept sugar, and the doctor was empowered. And with the telehealth, if the doctor had any question, he could connect on to us and we could see the patient and talk. So first, we started it in the district of Aligarh, and I would like to thank my two friends who came with me, and we had, this was a totally philanthropic work, and we did it through this company called DocGo, and my colleagues are Nimit and Himraj. Both of them supported me with this idea, and then media and DTV, etc. were very instrumental in taking it forward, and then it wouldn't have been possible with the support of so many people. They realized what we were doing was good. We provided information about how we were running in the various kilometers. So then, with the help of Crypto Relief, Lung Foundation of India, who supported us with medicine and some financial supports from different parts, we came out with 11 buses. And I'm so grateful to government, to Honorable Governor of UP, Anandimai Patel. She flagged our 11 buses from Raj Bhavan of Lucknow, and we did have the Red FM as our support, and these 11 buses have now, that was flagged on August 13th, you know. The first bus was 5th May, and then this 11 buses. It goes around in various villages where initially we were working only on identifying the COVID symptoms, telling them what needs to be done, and then informing the district authorities, helping them to move to towards places where they can get care, and those who wanted government care, the private care, you know, guiding them on all that. Totally philanthropy, nothing was there. And the second time when we done the 11 buses, minimal 5 rupees was charged, because we had to have in the system the total numbers, that the thousands of numbers that we had to be on record, electronic. So I'm really so happy that I was instrumental in working for my nation.
Thank you, Dr. Mohan. That was really beautiful. And I think in a summary, I'd like to say that it's very important for parents to be open to sharing and listening from their healthcare provider. Also, support groups. I think a lot of dialogue and discussion is always good for parents, so that they can learn the right ways of parenting, and it's very important for the correct development of
nutrition,
parenting,
physical health, mental health, and social health.
Okay. Thank you very much, Dr. Mohan. I think we've had a very meaningful chat with you, and our viewers would greatly benefit from this talk. I would like to say that, viewers, Dr. Mohan has very exhaustively mentioned how we must encourage positive behavior in children and enable them to make wise choices when it comes to their health and development. On that note, I'm going to be saying goodbye from here. Outlook Rendezvous's next episode will come to you very soon. Thank you very much for being with us.